The race for the White House is not the only contest next week. They could have major implications on the future of the country. The balance of power in the U.S. Senate is also at stake. One of the tightest races we are seeing in Texas right now is between these two men. Democratic Congressman Colin Allred is trying to unseat Republican Senator Ted Cruz. So for more on that race, let's bring in Jack Fink. He's a political reporter with CBS News Texas, and he joins me now. All right, Jack, so the latest polling shows Cruz with a razor-thin lead. He's been serving for quite some time in that seat, but I recall the last time he was up for re-election, it was also sort of razor-thin, and Mitch McConnell had to really pour in resources to fend off a run by Beto O'Rourke.
Well, good morning, Vlad. Nice to be with you. Yeah, this has really kind of been the big question here in Texas among us political reporters this time is why is there such a difference in the polling? When you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls in Texas, former President Donald Trump is leading Vice President Kamala Harris by 7 percentage points. But when you look at those very same polls, Senator Ted Cruz is up by 4.1 percentage points ahead of Congressman Colin Allred. So everybody's asking, who is this Trump voter who's not also going to vote for Senator Ted Cruz? And I think there may be two things at work here. First, when you look at the polling, there are still undecided voters in the Senate race, about 3 to 5 percentage points. And one recent poll, the Texas Politics Project poll at UT Austin, showed that they forced voters, the undecided voters, to pick a side. And when they did that, Cruz came out ahead by 7 percentage points. So that may be a factor. The other thing that I think could be at work here is, unlike the presidential race, we're not seeing any of those ads by Kamala Harris or former President Trump when you turn on the local news. What we are seeing is all the time Senate ads, many of them, most of them by Colin Allred. He has outraised Senator Cruz this time around, and so that may be another factor. But I think there are some things to keep in mind here. Republicans still have an advantage. This is still Cruz's race to lose. A Democrat has not won statewide in Texas in more than 3 decades. I spoke with Senator John Cornyn, our senior senator, yesterday. He thinks Cruz is going to win. I spoke with the Texas GOP chair the day before. He also thinks, while close, that Cruz will win this as well.
So I guess the question for people outside of Texas is, what are the policy differences between the two men? I mean, I know in broad strokes, Republican policies and Democratic ones, but when people outside of Texas think of Ted Cruz, they think of somebody who's either sort of lockstep with the former President Donald Trump, which, if you're a Trump supporter, is something that you are happy about. But the other thing that comes to mind is Ted Cruz jetting off to Cancun when Texas was in dire straits. So I'm trying to understand, if this race is as close as it is, for those people who seem to be on the fence, what is it policy-wise that differentiates the two?
Well, to your point about Senator Cruz going to Cancun during our horrible, deadly storm in February of 2021, Congressman Allred, from the first day he jumped into this race, has reminded voters of that, and that's still in just about every campaign ad of his. But when you talk about policies, Texas is really very similar to the rest of the country. When you look at the polling, the top concerns are certainly border security and immigration, which they have been in Texas for a decade now, but also the economy and inflation. Further down the list is abortion and reproductive rights, but Congressman Allred has made this the biggest part of his issue. He's even been campaigning with a number of Texas women who had to leave the state to get an abortion during their troubled pregnancies. So this has been the dichotomy of the concerns here in Texas.
All right, Jack Fink for us this morning. Jack, thanks so much. Appreciate it.